This is the new Sigma 300-600mm f4 sports lens. This is our new flagship super telephoto lens, and it's unbelievable for sports and wildlife photographers. For wildlife and sports photographers, the reach, speed and quality of a lens like this is going to be vitally important. So today I've come to the Yorkshire photography hides where I'm going to be photographing kestrels. Fast-moving birds, small, lots of fine detail in the feathers, so we're going to see exactly what this lens is capable of. So this is a really serious lens, 300mm all the way through to 600 with a constant f4 aperture. This really sits at the flagship of the Sigma Sports range of lenses. It's designed for use in a whole range of different situations and different weather conditions, so it has our best weather sealing possible. And you'll notice that this lens is white. The new paint finish is for thermal stability as well, so it really is going to be a fantastic lens for photographers using it in really harsh conditions. With a combination of the focal length of this lens as well as the aperture, it almost promises to be a dream lens. What it does is give you the opportunity to shoot with a zoom lens, but with the quality of the primes all the way through the range. It's an incredibly innovative lens. This is the world's first 300-600mm f4, so no one else makes a lens quite like this. And it has a load of new features for Sigma as well. So we've got this brand new function ring, you've got the ability for drop-in filters on this lens, so it really is a special lens, and I can't wait to see what it's capable of. Okay, so we're in the hide now. A lot of wildlife photographers using a lens like this are going to be using it in a hide where you can be in a position, not having to carry it around too much. The lens itself weighs just short of 4 kilos, so it's not a small optic, but actually when you consider the focal range that it's covering and the aperture, it's a really reasonable size for that. And it sits within our sports series of our lenses, which means it's got the highest level of weather sealing possible and a whole range of professional features to go with it. So I'll start from the back of the lens because there's probably quite a lot to talk about here. Right at the back of the lens, you've got a little drop-in filter system. So we've got a brand new neutral density, variable neutral density filter and circular polarizer filter, which can be used in there. I've currently got a protector filter in there. It's 40.5mm filters that go in there. We've got a whole set of switches here. You tend to see these on a lot of our sports series lenses. At the top you've got a manual focus, autofocus switch, so that's for cycling between the two different modes. Focus limiter sits below, and that's for telling the lens what range you want it to focus in. We'll probably be using that quite a lot today, especially for the perches that are a little bit closer to us and we don't want the lens trying to focus all the way to the background. Below that you've got optical stabilization mode, so whether you're doing panning shots or if you're in mode 1, that's what you'll be using for most everyday shooting. It's what I'm going to be using today. And then below that you've got your custom bank switch. On a Sony camera for this one, that changes the effect of the optical stabilization within the viewfinder. If you've got an L-mount version of the lens on an L-mount camera, you can customize that within one of our docks as well. Moving forwards from there, we've got, of course, the tripod foot, which is arc Swiss dovetail. It can be rotated using this knob here. It rotates through 90 degrees, and you can choose whether you want that to click or not click as it hits the 90-degree increments. Focus ring in front of that, zooming in front of that. What's amazing about this lens is as you're zooming, the weight doesn't really move much within the lens, so there's a lot of elements within this lens, but it's designed to keep the weight of the lens towards the back to give you the most stability. Now, just in front of that, you'll see this dial here. This is our new function ring. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail later on, but that's going to give you some really handy tools for manual focusing in video, but also snapping focus back to a predetermined spot, which you can customize and set really easy. So that's a really good new feature. And then you'll notice this button here, there's actually 4 of this button around the lens. That's a custom button, so ordinarily that's set to be an autofocus lock, but in most modern cameras now, just like the Sony, you can set it to do a whole different horde of features as well. The new hood on this lens is actually carbon fibre as well, so lighter as well, so trying to keep the weight of this lens down. But really, really professional grade lens with this one. Loads of different features on it, as you'd expect from a lens that really sits at the very top of our sports series. I can already see that the kestrels outside are getting a little bit restless. They're waiting for us to put some food out. So I think that's perfect timing for us to put some bait out and take some photos and see what the lens is capable of. Let's go. Definitely not for the squeamish. So we added bait to the set over there literally about 30 seconds ago, about a minute ago, and the kestrels are already, they're literally there right now. That's incredible. They've literally just come straight down to it. We've got both the male and the female kestrel, and they're literally fighting over the mouse right now. That is incredible. It's taken them less than a minute to come down and start to feed. So I think that's the female that's on the mouse right now. You've got the male who's trying to get it off her, but he's struggling to do so. It's amazing how fast the focus is on this. I've got the eye detection switched on, and it's just locked onto the female's eye right now. Hard to believe that these are wild birds, and what the guy said when I arrived here is that people often refer to this as being the best place in the UK to photograph kestrels. I can see why they've said that now. We've actually got both the male and the female here as well, I think. So we've got one of the birds on the perch a little bit close to us right in front of the hide, and then a little bit further back we've got what I think is the male as well. And they're literally just jumping from one perch to the other at this point, so there's loads of different sets, loads of different compositions we can get. Literally just waiting for us to put more bait down for them. So we're going to put out the second piece of bait now. I'm going to put it on this fence here because we've got quite nice background over here. So these trees, even though it's winter and there's no leaves on them, they've got quite a nice warm colour to them, so it's looking really nice with the kestrels. Now, by attaching it with a cable tie, what that is letting us do is, or what that's stopping rather, is the kestrels flying away with the food. So the longer that we can keep the mouse here on this post, the longer we're able to take photos for, really. I'm just going to clip off the cable tie there. And hopefully this will last long enough that we can get some really good shots, and hopefully we'll see them fighting again. At this kind of distance, I'll be able to use the longer end of the zoom as well. So let's go back inside, wait for the birds to come down and see what we get. With the f4 aperture on this, I'm currently at an 8,000th of a second, and I'm only at ISO 500, so relatively low ISO at the moment, so we should get some nice clean images, but still be able to freeze the action. And that's one of the benefits of having that f4 aperture, is it's just letting so much more light into the lens. I can see the kestrel, it's just in a box, maybe about 100 metres away, and if it's anything like last time, it'll be coming down fairly quickly to get the food. So it looks like we've got both of them fighting over this one as well. Well, here we go. So we've got one of the kestrels which is kind of guarding the food, whilst the other one's waiting to try and have some of it as well. Oh wow, they're flying down at it and kind of snatching at it right now instead. It's incredible. It's totally different behaviour to the way that they were acting when we first put the food down. I'm just going to drop the camouflage netting. We had it down at first and then we've lifted it up for a while, but I think we're going to try drop it again and just see if that gets the birds to come back down a little bit. The only downside is that you don't get to see the beautiful lens quite as nicely, but I'm sure that's a sacrifice we're willing to make. Okay, so the kestrel's just come down now, so clearly the camouflage netting's helped. And again, we've got numerous birds now. I don't know if you can hear that on the video, but the kestrel that's currently got the mouse is kind of crying out as it's protecting it from the other ones. It's amazing how well the focusing system works on these cameras with this lens. So I've currently got the bird eye detection switched on, and straight away it's locking onto the kestrel's eye, and with continuous autofocus it's just sticking to it and not even budging. One of the really great things about this f4 aperture is it allows you to create a shallow depth of field and blur out what's quite a busy background and isolate the subject within the frame. So right now the kestrel is sat on the prey, so it's sat on the bait, it's just got one foot just kind of holding it down, and I think before it starts tucking in, it's just making sure that it's safe to start eating. The sun's just coming out now, so you can see just that little bit of warm light on the wall. It keeps catching on the kestrel's eye actually, which is really nice. As it looks towards the light, it just kind of brings that highlight out in the eyes, which otherwise are just really black and dark. So obviously the lighting is beautiful right now, but the rendering of this lens is just, it's absolutely stunning. It's incredibly sharp, as you'd expect, but the contrast is really lovely, and the way the background falls off, the quality of the bokeh on this lens is just superb. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing with this. It is amazing at just isolating the subject, but doing it in a way that's really visually pleasing. So you'll notice that Chris, who shoots the video, and I have swapped sides. A couple of reasons for that. One, I was getting quite jealous of the video footage he was getting, but also so I can talk about the switches on this side of the lens that I mentioned earlier. So you'll notice we've got another array over here. We've got a set button at the top. Below that, we've got beep on and off, and then we've got the switch that controls our brand new function ring towards the front of the lens. So the switch that says beep is fairly self-explanatory. It's for turning on and off the beep when the camera focuses. However, it's a switch below that we're going to dive into here. So the first mode on this is preset. So what that lets me do is set the focus point to a predetermined level simply by focusing the lens and then pressing the set button here. And then every time I turn the ring, it will bring the focus back to that specific home point. So you can see in this example here, I've got the flask which is set up on the perch over there. And as soon as I twist the ring, the focus jumps back to the flask. In an ideal world, that would have been a lovely kestrel, but they're not being too cooperative at the moment. So this is going to be a really handy feature for if you're jumping between a couple of set locations. So it will be handy in a hide like this where there's perches at set distances. I think sports photographers will find this really handy for distances on, say, a pitch and things like that. So that's a really nice new feature on this lens. So now if I turn the switch from preset to power focus, this changes what the function ring does. And now this will work as a really smooth manual focus. So what this is going to enable me to do is a really soft, smooth, gradual shift in the focus of the lens without having to rack the whole focus ring round. So you're only having to do a very small movement using the function ring as opposed to moving the entire focus ring towards the back. So I think that this is going to be really appealing for videographers and filmmakers who want to use this function ring to create a more gradual, smoother focus pull with minimal movements using the function ring as opposed to using the conventional focus ring. Of course, one of the reasons why the lens is able to pull focus so quickly and accurately there is due to the HLA motors that we use in a range of Sigma lenses. So these are just really fast, really quiet focus motors that we use in some of the lenses, which are able to accelerate and decelerate really quickly, which basically means they can focus faster and more precisely. So we've just got the male kestrel on the perch on the right hand side now. It's really beautiful. You've got the colouring in the background where you've got some of the hills which are in shadow, and because he's got a grey head, it just works really nice with that. So we've got this lovely warm light, but it just looks fantastic. So that has been the brand new Sigma 300 to 600mm f4 lens at the Yorkshire Photography Hides. I cannot believe how well the lens has performed, but actually how amazing it's been for photography here. When we arrived, the guy said that this is the best place in the UK to photograph kestrels, and I can believe it. It's been a fantastic time. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I've absolutely loved using this lens. The Sigma 300 to 600mm f4 sports lens. It's incredible.